Okay, so shall we start then? I'll start. So, welcoming everyone. Thank you for attending our session. Really happy to have you all here. My name is Tharani Jayaratnam, and I'm the founder of Green Rooms Women, a US based nonprofit working with women in Sri Lanka affected by war. In northern Sri Lanka, northern Sri Lanka doesn't feature much in the news anymore since the 2009 since 2009 when the 30-year civil war ended. It was the epicenter of the civil war that left the region devastated. Banajan, not yet. Huh? This is just the introduction. Okay. Since the war ended, the country and the region has weathered the pandemic and the economic meltdown in 2022. Sri Lanka is known for its resplendent beaches and attracts a lot of tourists, but few venture up to the north, and we hardly see panels or discussions in international forums such as this, which centers the region. Especially the women of the region who have borne the brunt of the war and are living in a patriarchal culture. So this session is a small gesture to highlight the region and its resilient women and some of the issues pertinent to advancing their welfare, their rights, and their well-being. So now I'm going to be the first speaker. We're going to have 5 speakers, and we will each speak about our topics, and then there will be a question and answer in the end. So please save your questions, and we also have our contact information on the WOWA platform in case you have any follow-up questions later after we end the session. So let me start with my presentation. I'm the only one of the speakers who is from the diaspora. I was born in Jaffna in Sri Lanka, in northern Sri Lanka. And the rest of the speakers live and work in Jaffna in northern Sri Lanka, and they will be speaking about their life and work from that perspective. I will be speaking from the diaspora's perspective. So my topic is focusing on impact, and scaling up is not for every context. So usually whenever people in our international development work, whenever people go into projects, they are always talking about scaling up. And that was what I was also thinking when I started to imagine doing some work in my country. So next slide. I left the country in 1983, and the left side of the slide that you see is in 1983. That's how my family and my home was. This is the way I left. And then I returned after the war was over, after 27 years. And the right side that's how I found the house that I was born. And you could, by looking at this picture, you could see that how devastated the society, the country, and people were. And I really wanted to see how I could help the country and how I could help the women, because the women, of course, are always the most affected during any conflict. Next slide, Banajan. So just to give a little bit of the context of the situation at that time, the war had left about 90,000 war widows in the north and east. In the northern region, there were 40,000 women-headed households, with 20,000 in the Jaffna district alone. Unemployment rates for women was double that of men. And then the end of the war had also brought about violence. There was, levels of rape and gender-based violence and child abuse. It was done without impunity. The internally displaced people and returnees were especially vulnerable to gender-based violence and trafficking. There were NGOs, international NGOs were at the front line caring for victims, but faced accusations of being anti-government. And in this context, women bore the burden and stigma of widowhood, but were not getting support. There were women were also farming, but lacked state support and faced competition from the army. So it was really a situation where women were being left behind, even though there was a lot of development that was going on. I spoke with many different organizations, and I met with a legal aid NGO working with abused and abandoned women, seeking to find out how best I could help. That was when I was introduced to Miss Marina. Next slide, please. And you will hear from Miss Marina later on. She was almost 60 years old when I met her in 2014, in January of 2014. And she had come to this organization asking if they would teach her or give her some training in paper quilling. What started off at that time, I was very willing to do it because it was brought by the local person. So I was happy to fund that. And what started off as funding 20 women to learn quilling blossomed into funding several batches of training, and after the training, providing small seed money for those who wanted to start their own micro businesses. And in this context, within a year or two, Miss Marina emerged as an expert quilling artist. And she was a very sought after trainee who was being asked to go even to India and to China to do quilt art work. You want to, can we have that video, please, of Miss Marina? A short video at that time for Miss Marina.
When a single woman gets empowered, the whole society gets benefited. Maria Evangeline from Ariale, Jaffna is a 60-year-old woman who was affected by war. She learned to produce paper-based greeting cards of variety of nature and is confident of facing economic challenges.
அவர் விட்டுட்டு போனோன்னா கான்வென்ட்டில் போய் இருந்தேன் நான். அப்போ எனக்கு இந்த உலக இதுகள் அவ்வளோ தெரியாது. யாரையும் தங்கி வாழணும் அப்படி என்று தான் ஒரு மனப்பக்குவத்தில் இருந்தேன். இந்த பிரச்சனையில் கொழும்புக்கு போய் அங்கே இந்த கார்மெண்ட்ஸுக்கு வேலைக்கு போனதோட கொஞ்சம் அந்த ஆக்களோட எல்லாம் பழகி இதன்றது. அதுக்கப்புறம் இங்கே வந்து இந்த தேவநாடு மகளிர் நிறுவனத்தோட தொடர்பு வச்ச பிறகு தான் இன்னும் கூட மன தைரியம் வந்தது. என்னால் செய்ய முடியாததுன்னு ஒன்றும் இல்லை, எங்களால் எல்லாம் சாதிக்கலும்.
Furthermore, she is also supporting 25 fellow women to learn the skills too.
எங்களுக்கு பழக்கேக்கில் இப்படி ஒரு அதிசயமான நல்ல ஒரு கெட்டித்தனம வாக்கில் இருக்கண்டு எனக்கு எந்த மனம் சரியான ஒரு சந்தோஷப்பட்டேன். நான் ஒவ்வொரு நிமிஷமும் நான் இங்கே ஏதாவது ஒரு எனக்கு நன்மை கிடைக்க அந்த காட்டால் என்ன வழியில் தெரிய வந்ததுண்டா மரீனாமாவை தான் நான் நினைக்கிறது. ஏன்னா அவாக்கு நான் இப்போ அவன் அந்த சிஷ்யதானே அவா.
Next slide, Panuj. So this is again, so the left picture is where the first day that I met Marina, Miss Marina, and then how she progressed, and I saw the resilience this one person actually showed. And this is just one person's story that I want to illustrate of how resilient the women of northern Sri Lanka are, and how they really go against the grain, and they try to survive, and to not only survive but to thrive. And that's what we want to focus today, that amidst all odds, that they do survive and thrive. Next slide, please. So in 2016, I opened an empowerment center in my family home for the women to train and work. It serves as a hub for the women to gather, and currently we employ nearly 6 to 10 women. Vanajan, you can advance the thing. 6 to 10 women quillers, and we also including the paper suppliers, and we pay them a guaranteed monthly income. We have, from 2014 to present, we have trained over 600 women, impacted over 600 women, and there are many micro businesses that have been created. But the most important thing that what we have observed is that it has spawned a lot of lookalike businesses, and a cottage industry of quilled outfits, which are actually doing really well. And these quilled cards and art is ubiquitous around Jaffna. So you see there that we have it has been a really heartwarming and a very enriching experience working with the women, seeing how they have survived and thrived, and also how this little project has actually been a lifeline for the women throughout the pandemic and throughout the economic collapse that happened for Sri Lanka in 2022. The ladies that we have supported have improved their lives year over year, and they have really come on top of this, where Sri Lanka at this moment has a lot of people who have gone into poverty. We have malnutrition. 1 in 5 kids, I think, are malnourished. But the women that we have supported have actually done really well. So the lesson that I have learned, can I have the next slide, Banaji? So the lesson that I have learned actually from doing this project is that in post-conflict societies, starting and sustaining projects and ventures are extremely difficult and very hard, especially for people from the diaspora who have to go back, and they actually have to train themselves to be from the land again. But starting small and focusing on impact and staying with the community for the long haul is the way forward. So I would encourage diaspora of post-conflict societies to focus on that, starting small, but having a commitment to stay for the long haul. Now let me introduce 3 of our employees of Green Dreams Women. They will be speaking for a couple of minutes about the impact Green Dreams Women and the project has had on their lives in Tamil, and Tulasi Muthulingam will translate. First will be Miss Marina, who was the first recipient of our project. Marina, go ahead.
Good morning. In the prayer, Aloysius Marine Evangeline. I'm Mudal Sarani Madam. அவ சந்திச்சது 2013ஆம் ஆண்டு. அதற்கு பிறகு அவ கிரீன் ட்ரீம்ஸ் விமன் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணி விமனின் நீடில் ட்ரைனிங் கொடுக்க சொல்லி பிள்ளைகளுக்கு பாதிக்கப்பட்ட பிள்ளைகளுக்கு ட்ரைனிங் கொடுக்க சொல்லி அவ எனக்கு ஹெல்ப் பண்ணி இருந்தா. ரிசோர்ஸ் மணி பே பண்ணி நான் அந்த பிள்ளைகளுக்கு பழக்கி கொடுத்து கொண்டிருந்தேன். அதற்கு பிறகு 2014ஆம் ஆண்டு
Kanaka சொன்னீங்கன்னா எனக்கு மறந்துடும். Okay, let me translate that because if she says too much, I might forget what she said first. So good morning. I met Miss Tarani in 2013. At that time, she was liaising with a local NGO supporting women in need here. So that's literally their name, Women in Need. All sorts of women having difficulties in their life access that NGO. So she asked me as a resource person to train the women who access that NGO with this quilt card work. And she paid me the resource money for that.
அதற்கு பிறகு 2014ஆம் ஆண்டு கிரீன் ட்ரீம்ஸ் விமன் வந்து ஒரு ஆர்கனைசேஷன் அவ ஆயத்தப்படுத்தி அங்க இந்த மருதடி லேன்ல ஒரு சென்டர் ஓபன் பண்ணி அதுல பிள்ளைகளை வேலைக்கு வச்சு அவைகளோட சேர்ந்து நானும் அங்க வேலை செய்து கொண்டிருந்தேன் நான்.
So after that, after a certain number of women were trained, in order to market their products, she formed an outlet center out of her home in Maridari Lane. Set up an organization called Green Dreams Women. Hired these women who could make the quilt cards, and hired me too. And so we started that from that outlet in her house in 2014.
அதற்கு பிறகு பிள்ளைகளுக்கு ட்ரெயின் பண்ண சொல்லி வவனியாவுக்கு பாதிக்கப்பட்ட பிள்ளைகள் சில ஊனமுற்ற பிள்ளைகள் அப்படி இருந்தவை அவைக்கு ட்ரெயின் பண்ண சொல்லி கிரீன் ட்ரீம்ஸ் விமனால அங்க வவனியாவுல போய் ரிசோர்ஸ் பர்சனா ட்ரெயின் பண்ணினான். அதற்கும் கிரீன் ட்ரீம்ஸ் விமன் அவ எனக்கு ரிசோர்ஸ் மணி தந்தாரு.
After that, she encouraged me to go to other regions in the northern province, war-affected regions. So this is Jaffna. Another region is Vavuniya. She sent me to Vavuniya to train war-affected women, disabled women, needy women over there as well, and paid me as a resource person for that, to train them in this card work.
அதுக்கு பிறகு நான் கிரீன் ட்ரீம்ஸ் விமனோட தொடர்ந்து வேலை செய்து கொண்டிருக்கிறேன். பிள்ளைகளும் வந்து அங்க வேலை செய்கிறார்கள். எந்த பேரனுக்கும் எக்ஸாம் எடுக்கிறதுக்கு பணம் போதாம இருந்த போதும் கிரீன் ட்ரீம்ஸ் விமனால எனக்கு உதவி செய்திருந்தா. என்னுடைய வருத்தங்கள், பர்த்டேகள் எல்லாத்துக்கும் கிரீன் ட்ரீம்ஸ் விமனால உதவி செய்வா. பொங்கல், சரஸ்வதி பூசை, அப்படி வருஷ பிறப்பு அதுகளுக்கு எல்லாம் நாங்க கிரீன் ட்ரீம்ஸ் விமன் மருதடி லேன்ல எல்லாம் கொண்டாடி அங்க வேலை செய்வோம்.
So I have continued to work ever since 2013 till now at Green Dreams Women. I'm surrounded by other women who work for Green Dreams Women. We have formed a mini community and a family. We celebrate festivals together, help each other out in times of financial stress. Tarani has supported me externally over and beyond the work space as well whenever I needed help. Within the workspace, we celebrate festivals together, work together, and have so we are thriving as a mini community here.
Thank you. I think Marinama, thank you very much. Thanks for your account. So let's have Shankari now.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Sivasangari. எனது வயது 49. நான் யாழ்ப்பாணத்தை அராளிதற்கு பட்டுக்கோட்டையில இருந்து வந்தேன். எனது குடும்பம் வந்து அம்மா அப்பா, நான் ஒரு பிள்ளை. அம்மா அப்பா இறந்து விட்டார்கள். நான் மேரி பண்ணி எனது கணவர் பிரிந்து விட்டார். நான் இங்க வந்து 8 வருஷமா வேலை செய்து பணியாற்றி கொண்டிருக்கிறேன். இது அது இங்க கிரீட்டிங் கார்ட்ஸ் வந்து நான் மகளிர் அமைப்பால உமன் மீட்டால வந்து இங்க அதால ட்ரைனிங் கிரீட்டிங் கார்ட்ஸ் ட்ரைனிங் நடக்குதுன்னு சொல்லி அவர்கள் கொண்டு வந்து இங்க ட்ரைனிங் எடுத்துட்டு 2018ஆம் ஆண்டு நான் இங்க வந்து வேலை பணியாற்றி கொண்டிருக்கிறேன் 8 வருஷமாக.
Okay, let me translate it. So, good morning. My name is Shankari. I am from Jaffna. In my family, it was only my parents and me. I was an only child. My parents passed away. I had an arranged marriage, and then my husband left me soon after. And at that time, I accessed the Women in Need NGO because I needed help to sustain myself, and I had no external support. They sent me for training at Green Dreams Women, where I learned quilling cards. And after that, I got a job with them, and I have been working with them from 2018. From 2018 for about 8 years now.
கிரீன் ட்ரீம்ஸ் மேனுக்கு பொறுப்பாக தேரணி மிஸ் இருக்கிறா. அவ வந்து எங்களுக்கு மாத சம்பளம் தந்து கொண்டு இருக்கிறா. அது நான் வரும்போது எனக்கு கடன் இருந்தது. அந்த கடனை அவ அடைக்க தந்த காசு தந்து நான் அதிக இப்ப வருமானத்தால நாங்கள் இந்த இதுகளை மேம்படுத்தி கொண்டு வாழ்க்கை செலவுகளை மேம்படுத்தி கொண்டு இதன்னு கொண்டு இருக்கிறோம். மற்றது அவ வந்து பிறந்த நாள் இதுகள் மற்ற தைப்பொங்கல் பிறப்பு இது சரஸ்வதி பூசைகள் இதுகள் கொண்டாடுகிறவா. கொண்டாடி எங்களை கொண்டாட சொல்லி நாங்கள் இங்க கொண்டாடி கொண்டு இருக்கிறோம். நாங்கள் மற்றது எங்களுக்கு வந்து கிரீங்கார்ட் செய்யும் போது ஒரு மனநிலை இது ஒருமித்து அந்த மனநிலையில நாங்கள் அதை இதற்கு சந்தோஷமாக இருக்கிறது. இது கவலையை நாங்கள் மறந்து அதை ஹாப்பியா நல்ல சந்தோஷமாக கொண்டாடு.
Thank you, Shankari. Go ahead, Tulasi.
Yeah, so Tarani has supported us. When I first got here, I had gone into debt to sustain my living costs. And so she redeemed me from the debt, gave me a salary that sustains me now, has made me self-sufficient. We celebrate the festivals here. And I also want to say that the work we do helps us to dissolve the stress in our lives, because the working creatively with colorful cards, I find that it helps me with my mental and emotional stress and heals me when I work on this.
Thank you. Toji?
ஒரு குழந்தை கொண்டு இருக்கிறேன்.
கதைங்க பயப்பட வேண்டாம்.
எனது வயது 35. திருமணமாகி ஒரு குழந்தை கொண்டு இருக்கு.
ரெண்டு லைன் மட்டும் கதைங்கோ அவளும் காணும்.
எனக்கு வேலை கிடைச்ச அவன் பிள்ளை பெரிய விளையாய் பிள்ளைக்கு முதல் செஞ்சு படிப்பத்திலாவுக்கு அதுக்கு முதல் செய்கிறவா.
Okay,
Thank you, Toji. Thank you very much.
All right, so her name is Toji. She also accessed the Women in Need NGO because she was when she was newly married and had a baby, the husband left her, and again she was not equipped for any kind of work outside the house. She went to the Women in Need NGO. They again put her in touch with Green Dreams Women for training here, and as a result of that, she has a job now. She has been able to support her daughter single-handedly, who is a teenager now. So she is very grateful about that.
Thank you. So that concludes my presentation. So over to you, Tulasi.
Okay, thanks, Tarani. So to briefly introduce myself, I was a member of the diaspora. I was 3 years old when I left Jaffna. Soon after, we had a massive pogrom here in which many Tamils were killed in 1983. Many Tamils left the country at that time. And so my family was one of that, and I was just 3 years old. We left to a neighboring country, the Maldives. I grew up there, and at the age of 21, I returned. That was in 2002. And ever since I returned, there were certain ambitions I had that we'll get to that later. But being a woman in this culture means the barriers are stacked against you. So I always wanted to be a journalist, always wanted to come back to northern Sri Lanka to write about the stories here. But I returned here at 21, but I was past 30 when I became an established journalist and managed to come back to Sri Lanka, because I did that against my parents' wishes, against my community's wishes. So I had to build myself up to that level of being self-sufficient and having the courage to do that. So ever since then, from about 2013 onwards, I have been stationed in northern Sri Lanka, primarily Jaffna, but I travel all over the north, focusing on stories here in the post-war north, because by then the war had ended. And then I identified as a journalist working in the national press in the south at that point, that there was a lot of interest in northern Sri Lanka, but not many stories were coming out of here. So I wanted to come here, station myself here, interview people directly here, and write their stories. So that's what I did. So coming back to women and how we thrive in this context, the thing is, there are many, many things stacked against us, but we do thrive. So let me start with the challenges. What are our main challenges? So historically, women were supposed to be, not historically, even in the current context, but our traditional context is that women are expected to be the home-based carers. So get up early in the morning, well before dawn. All that is encoded into our, social, religious structures about how to be a good woman. So if you get up after sunrise, you're a bad woman. And I still get that in this community. Oh my God, you're getting up at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning. So you have to get up at well before sunrise, start cleaning, mopping, sweeping, cooking. And basically, to sit down is a sign of a bad woman. Like you have to be constantly on the move from early morning till midnight. And many women, even though they have the 21st century is such that they have had to go out and work alongside their husbands. So traditionally in the fields, now as teachers, engineers, doctors. So that has changed. But what hasn't changed is the understanding it is still the women's work to sit there at home, or it would stay at home and do all this as well. The husband is not expected to contribute. So what happens is that the women have to get up early and earlier. My mother got up at 5 a.m. because sunrise here is around 6 a.m., but she was a housewife. Now it's like the average woman is getting up at 3 a.m. because she has to get up and cook 2 meals a day, and because they have to take a packed lunch, the children as well as the husband and the wife. So she gets up, makes breakfast, makes lunch, packs everything, then gets ready and goes to work. And then she comes back, and again, the whole routine starts all over again. Make dinner, clean up, even the kids' homework and teaching the children at home. That is her work. All that, all the way till midnight. And within this context, what was traditionally thought of is, since the woman is supposed to be at home, it's like cooking is her domain, cleaning up is her domain, but nothing else. So other than this, we call it the formal sector. That is the mainstream jobs like becoming a doctor, a teacher, an engineer. That's our formal sector of employment. We have what we call the informal sector, in which the majority of women are still. So that is the traditional sector: fisheries, farming, toddy tapping. So let me show you a picture of. Banijan, can you stop sharing so that I can? 1 second. So if you look at the resources of the North, it's the traditional industries are fishing, farming, and then this is the tree that dominates all over the North. It's called the palmyra. And we use the resources from all over this tree, but the most money making is toddy tapping. Now, all these industries are male led, and only a man can do them. So, from a young age, they hobble a girl and say, "You can't climb trees. You shouldn't climb trees." And she is beaten up if she climbs trees. So, it's only a male can do this when he grows up. Despite this, I have heard some women, because poverty makes you desperate. And some women, despite being hobbled like that, could climb trees. And since you are earning a lot of money from the toddy here, and if you are desperate enough, you'll do that. Some women were actually climbing these trees and making the toddy from them. I've heard the stories. Unfortunately, when I went into those areas trying to find the women, the community wouldn't help, because for them, it's a huge stigma. The news would come out, in this area, there's a woman doing this. I would go into that area and try to find her, but it was not easy to access her, because it's like the entire community would be like, no, how dare you say that there's no such woman in our community. In the meantime, the BBC interviewed an Indian woman in South India who used a machine to climb up a coconut tree. So they were celebrating this as something massive, and a massive break had come through. Long before that, our northern women were not even using machinery. They were just climbing the tree up by themselves. But I have yet to find a woman to interview this, because she herself would not want to put her face out there and say, I'm doing this. And the community certainly wouldn't allow me to. I mean, it's not easy to access them. So this is one. Then coming back to fisheries, the same thing. Sorry. All right. So coming back to fisheries, again, only men can access the sea. Only men can go out in boats. This is socially codified. And what happens here is that post-war, many of the men have become alcoholics or drug dependent. So ultimately they are earning a lot of money with that, but they are spending it all on alcohol and drugs. And it is the woman of the household, not equipped to go out and fish, not equipped to go out and farm or toddy tap if she comes from one of these industries, communities, who has to go out and work. And she doesn't have an office job accessible to her. So then she does have to go out and farm. She does have to go out and fish. I have interviewed women who went out into the seas and rivers, just walked out, and with their bare hands, caught huge crabs, caught huge lobsters, fish, earn a living with that, come back and feed their kids. And you would think they would be uploaded as heroines for that. So these women I did manage to access. But when I accessed them and interviewed them, the community around them, even my fellow colleagues, I was working in NGOs, working with war-affected people at the time. My own colleagues, male and female both, would keep on telling me, don't publish this, don't publish this. Why would you shame them by publishing this? Why would you shame us by publishing this? This is shameful. Keep quiet, because it's shameful for a woman to be that industrious, that she has stepped up to feed her family by doing what was necessary. But I overrode that and said, no, I am not ashamed. It was hard to find some of the women who said, we are not ashamed, you can take our photograph. And even when they were not ashamed, sometimes I'll introduce you to one of the pages I run later. Many of the pictures have their heads cropped off, because the women would tell me it's not that we are ashamed of ourselves, but we are stigmatized for doing our work. And then if it is found out that we are doing this work, our children get bullied at school. So, don't put my face out there to the public, because as much as possible, we are trying to shield our children from the bullying. So the women are doing a lot, but they are unwilling to show their faces. I am unable to show their faces. So I use cropped pictures of their torsos, of their hands, their legs when I do an interview with them. That's the traditional industry. And over there, the informal sector, they are very point blank open about the gender disparity in pay. Now, in the formal sector, both public and private, if you are a doctor or an engineer or a teacher, officially on paper, you are supposed to be paid equally, men and women. That's not true, as we all know, but at least on paper, they pay lip service to it. For these industries, One, of course, the women can't openly go and climb the tree or openly go out and fish. But there are some things that the women can do. For example, she can be a farm labor, pulling the onions out or pulling the chilies out. And a man can also be employed like that. But for the same labor, they have something called women's wages and men's wages. And usually the women's wages are 2/3 or half of the men's wages. So for example, currently the men are getting paid 3,000 rupees per day. The women are getting 2,000 rupees per day as farm laborers for the same work. Coming to the formal sector. So we have these, we have long been there, like, we have had pilots, engineers, doctors for several decades now, both post-war, sorry, pre-war, during the war, and post-war. But again, how they are viewed, the access available to them, the infrastructure available to them. For example, the doctors are the top of the totem pole. You would think that such an educated industry would cover the very basics of just, secure rooms for them to sleep in while they are on call. Just 2 days ago, it made the national news that a doctor was raped on call duty. So basically, this is not a safe country for women to go out at night. But a doctor has to be, women doctors have to be available to be on service at night. And this happens a lot in South Asia. So she'll be given a room without a lock to sleep in, if she's given a room at all. And then there was a massive rape that happened a few months ago in India, at which point many lady doctors here said they had the same security issues here. They had raised the complaint repeatedly with their senior management. So senior management doesn't care. And one doctor recently, after the recent rape, said she slept in her car because she had not even been provided that room. So she was staying outside this hospital, sleeping in her car, and she would be, if she was suddenly called, she would go to the ward. And so basic security, not even for them. So you can imagine how our factory workers are treated. Gender-based violence is like endemic into it. But they are, one of our biggest industries is garments, clothes processing, clothes factories. Many of the major labels across the world have their factories in Sri Lanka. And on Women's Day, they make a huge din about how much they are doing for the women. It's severely exploiting the women, but they talk about how they are empowering the women. They underpay them massively. They stop them from having their own trade unions to ask for their basic rights, just like this, security, that's all. Or sitting down while you work. The North especially, I thought this was normal, and then I found out that it was a special policy for the North, because they had already set up factories in the South where women could sit down and sew. And even then the women got serious bodily injuries, because 12 to 16 hours of continuously sitting down with your neck bent, sewing through garments, you will have several problems with it. When they opened factories post-war in the North, they didn't even give the chair. So the woman had to stand 12 to 16 hours, head bent, standing and working. And when we asked why, it's like, no, they come up with all sorts of stupid excuses. We can't afford the chairs. These are multinational companies. Or they will work more effectively when they are standing up. Studies have shown it's healthier for them when they are standing up. All sorts of excuses. So it's huge exploitation. And when the women tried to form trade unions, they were fired, heavily marginalized. So despite that, some trade unions have formed now, but that ongoing process of how much women are curtailed from talking about themselves. So right now we have some supermarkets doing the same thing. Supermarkets are new in this area because after war only all these industries came over here. So again, they have female staff being the cashiers, the tellers, standing on their feet 12 to 16 hours a day. We don't know what salaries they are getting because we are trying to interview them. But they are so terrified, they just won't open up about their working conditions. They do not have trade unions, and they will not tell us what's happening to them inside there. Let's hold on just a second. Let me I lose my train of thought unless I have the pictures. Let's see. Okay. I had to show it up one by one. Sorry, I'm not used to this format, so let me just. Okay. Give me 1 second, please. Tarani, how much time do I have?
Another couple minutes.
Okay, let me. Sorry. I should have probably had it in emotion. All right, this is not working. Sorry, guys. I did have some pictures ready to show you in different formats, but why is this like this? Why is my... Okay. Oh, that I clicked the text instead of share. You can hear this to this day in our regions. My mother doesn't work. She's sitting at home doing nothing. That's what they say. She's sitting at home doing nothing if she's a housewife. And so this is the nothing she does if she's a housewife. All the housework, looking after the husband, looking after the babies, looking after the children, looking after the elderly, chopping firewood, cleaning, sweeping, cooking, everything. And that's nothing. And there's a lot of contempt for this as women's work. You can see the contempt in the men's voices when they dismiss it as that's women's work. Unpaid care work, of course, which again, now that she has become an equal breadwinner with the husband, because the economy is such that both the husband and the wife do have to work. So she's also a teacher, she's also a doctor, she's also an engineer, or in the informal sector, she's also a tea plucker, she's also a farm worker, but she has to do all this, and that's nothing. Right. I'll close with this because we are running out of time. All I wanted to say is that even though women are dismissed like this, post-war especially, the structure was that the men are the breadwinners, the women are supposed to be the home-based carers. And then post-war, men died, became alcoholics, migrated abroad, or even if they were stable workers, not earning enough to support the family. All this combined means women willingly or unwillingly have had to go out to work. And if you look at what is sustaining the Sri Lankan economy now, the government has acknowledged this. The three main industries on which Sri Lanka is surviving: migrant remittances, and most of these migrant remittances are from women because they had not been educated enough. They are going as domestic workers to the Middle East. And that's the main remittance. So their remittances are making the economy survive, the first industry. Second industry, tea. Sri Lanka is famous for its Ceylon tea. The main tea pluckers are women. Third is garments, clothes, as I said. So the main three industries on which we survive as a country are all women-led. But if you look at how the women are treated there, the kind of salaries they earn there, we have been campaigning. They have been campaigning for around 30, 40 years now without any kind of progress on it. Coming back to the mainstream industries, let me just. So even at the very top, let me just stop sharing. If you look at our political representation, okay, I'm not going to share the picture, I'll just tell you that. So if you look at our political representation, we had to fight very hard to get political representation in parliament because we are one of the worst countries all over the world, as well as in South Asia. We have about 4 to 5% representation in parliament, women. However, Sri Lanka made history as the first country to elect a woman premier in the modern world, Sri Mawo Bandaranaike. So to this day, there's a lot of criticism about her government and why you should not elect women. She was not necessarily the worst premier we ever had. It's just that women are automatically sideline marginalized no matter how much they contribute. And you can see that right now because our prime minister is a woman. So if you look at our political structure, the main person in power is the executive president. He holds the reins. The prime minister by that structure is basically a figurehead. In previous governments, nobody would even know who that person is. They don't mention their name. They don't look at what they usually go around cutting ribbons. Nobody looks at, is this person implementing policy? So let's say the president is in charge, because Sri Lanka keeps switching. Is it the president in charge or the prime minister in charge? But okay, let's say the president is in charge. Nobody looks at who is the prime minister, what is he doing? Now we have a president in charge and a female prime minister who is actually doing a lot. She is touring the country. She's talking to people. She's implementing many of the promised policies that the government has promised. All that combined, and of course, people will have grievances with the government. What I did notice is that every time they want to complain about the government, nobody is talking about the male executive president and calling up his name and yelling about him. It's always calling the female prime minister and going, Harini, so our executive president is Anurag Kumara Disanayaka. Our prime minister is Harini Amarasuriya, a woman. So every time something goes wrong, I see her getting tagged all the time and getting cursed at. Harini, what is this? What is that? What is your government doing? That's not necessarily her mandate, and she's doing a lot anyway. How come suddenly instead of the calling upon the executive president, it's always the prime minister getting dragged into this? Whereas in every other previous government I have seen, the prime minister is not even expected to do any work. Nobody is even looking at what he's doing. That is how the women are treated in this. But despite all these odds stacked against us, the infrastructure is not there for us. Everything from street lights to daycare centers, something we have been campaigning for ever since the war ended, because these are underdeveloped parts of the country, just for us to go to work and come back safely. Even that is, to this day, we don't have a daycare center. The first thing the women asked for when they had to go out to work and support their children. We still don't have that. We don't have the infrastructure developed ever, despite all this campaigning. But with all this stacked against us, we are driving the economy. We are feeding our children. We are the ones supporting Sri Lanka to stay alive and thrive. Okay.
Thank you, Tulasi. So it's Matangi next. Is there a problem, Matangi?
Is it visible now?
Okay. Yeah, it's
Okay.
fine.
Okay then. Hope it's visible now. Hello everyone. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. I'm Madangi. I'm an entrepreneur, independent researcher, and woman entrepreneurship trainer. My presentation for today will be about the challenges faced by micro-scale women entrepreneurs in the northern province and about the current best practices in the ecosystem. So this presentation is based on my personal experience with the women entrepreneurs that I interact with, and based on the extractions of studies that I have been involved into. So to give an introduction, Sri Lanka went through ethnic tension and civil war for 3 decades, starting from 1983 to 2009. Both the northern and eastern provinces were the severely affected regions of the civil war. And the northern province is the most affected region. And this significantly created an adversarial impact on the socio-economic development of the context. So at the end of the Civil War, it was estimated that there are more than 80,000 war widows, both in the northern and eastern regions. So the rise of woman-headed families actually contributed to the culture of women entrepreneurship in the north. Members, especially the women from the woman-headed families, didn't have any other options than to enter into self-employment to feed their families. So NGOs and INGOs provided them with like livestock as well as sewing machines and equipments for food processing. So, however, many women were not able to survive livestock development, so that they entered into food processing and tailoring industries. Most of them are home-based. This made many of these women entrepreneurs to get into market saturation. That means food processing industry and the tailoring industries have become extremely saturated. So having that in mind, so let's look at some of the key facts about the current entrepreneurial ecosystem. Micro entrepreneurship is actually led by women entrepreneurs in the north. It is estimated that there are more than 70% of micro entrepreneurs are actually women entrepreneurs. And it would be more appropriate to call them as self-employed than to label them as women entrepreneurs, because many of them run their businesses out of survival instinct than out of passion. And despite the efforts that are being undertaken by the ecosystem actors, such as incubator bodies or accelerator bodies or women entrepreneurship training bodies, the challenges faced by these micro entrepreneurs remain really high. So I'm about to mention about the research, like some of the survey results. Like we are now going to look at certain challenges faced by normal micro entrepreneurs. So this is based on a survey conducted by the Gate Institute. It's a non-profit organization that is into research and entrepreneurship development. So the survey was conducted in collaboration with the University of Jaffna, Vaunia, and the Eastern University. Like 151 respondents were included. They were either entrepreneurs or ideapreneurs who had startup ideas in conceptualization stages. More than half of the respondents were women. So as to the survey, as you can see, as the visualization evidences, it was asked, what are the challenges you face in implementing startups? So many of them, majority of them mentioned as they don't have investment. This is in fact, this is in correlation to the fact that many entrepreneurs in the northern province are less aware or not aware about alternative financing models such as venture capital or angel investment or crowdsourcing. And others mentioned that they don't know how to do marketing research, and also not getting proper advices to refine their ideas. And they also have a perception that there is no guarantee that these startups will succeed. And a significant percentage of others also mentioned that they don't know the exact procedure of business registrations, as well as legal compliance and quality compliance. And lack of financial, managerial, and leadership skills are also evident to be the major challenges in implementing startups in the north. And as the second visualization evidences, like we asked from the entrepreneurs who mentioned as they don't get proper advices to refine their ideas, half of them mentioned that they don't have money to purchase the consulting and mentoring services in the northern province because they are really expensive. And others mentioned as there are no right people to guide them, and also they are not aware because they mentioned as no such services are available in the north. So these are the common challenges for micro entrepreneurs. So now let's look at some of the exclusive financial challenges for women entrepreneurs in the north. So first one is the dependence on spouses to get bank loans. Many banks still require women to get written consent or signature from their husbands, even to obtain bank loans for their business purposes. So this bureaucratic process puts women into a much vulnerable state. And another thing is market saturation. As I mentioned earlier, like in certain industries, there are market saturation, and like more than 70-80% of women entrepreneurs are in the tailoring and food processing industry. So it's very hard for them to sustain, and this reduces their competitiveness, and they are unable to bargain better profit margins, so that they are put into such a vulnerable position because they are unable to bargain better profits. So they survive through limited networks. And the other one is unconscious investor biasness. Although many entrepreneurs are unaware of alternative financing models, those who are aware of personal investors like angel investors, they also mention that many investors are reluctant to invest in women-led businesses. And the other problem is that many of such investors don't have a conscious gender lens investment strategy, so that this affects their gender equality when it comes to the investment portfolios. And then the documentation issues are very Jaffna specific, because as to the Tesa Valamai law, even women will have to get signatures as well as written consent from their spouses, even to sell or mortgage their own properties. So that's very difficult for them. And in the north, there are wives of the missing persons. So for them, they don't have proof that their husbands are dead, so they don't have death certificates. For them, it's almost impossible to get the mortgages done. So these are some of the financial challenges. And now let's look at some of the socio-cultural challenges that are faced by the women entrepreneurs. Career and industry stereotypes. So career stereotypes are, I think, gender generic in most cases. Like many parents in the Jaffna, in the northern province, are obsessed with government jobs. And the industry stereotypes, many parents instruct their daughters to stick to certain industries. So they expect their daughters to work in administrative positions, bank jobs, teaching jobs. So that's a very common issue. And controlling by families and traveling restrictions. Many women, especially middle-aged women, married women, they are being controlled by their mother-in-laws as well as their spouses. This affects their marketing abilities. So even if they are doing any home-based businesses, they are being controlled by them. So that's another drawback. And as Ms. Tulashi mentioned, many women are still expected to perform all the household activities. So this stereotype puts women into a much poor state of work-life balance. So these are some of the socio-cultural challenges faced by women entrepreneurs. And we spoke a lot about the challenges. Here are some optimistic facts that I observe with the younger generations. So these are more applicable for the Gen Z generation. So there is more improved interaction, and between female, there is improvement with female-male interactions, and there is more tolerance from the society than it was years back. And younger women are eager to travel, and they desire international exposure. So like there's a mindset shift that happens. And younger generation women also have better education and entrepreneurial opportunities. There are many accelerator programs and incubator programs, so that they have better entrepreneurial opportunities. And there's also willingness from them to try different business models, because now there are younger women who are into ecotourism industry as well as hotel industry. And also they are willing to try digital nomad entrepreneurship models, so that they can travel freely. So these are some of the optimistic facts that I observe with the younger generations. And here are some of the current best practices. So when it comes to best practices, these best practices are more applicable to the rural context. In the rural context, woman-to-woman support is high. and sisterhood. I mean, they develop sisterhood with their neighbors. Although they face traumatic experiences with their daily lives, so they develop this sisterhood and woman to woman support system. So like as Tulasi mentioned, there are no proper daycare centers, especially in the rural areas. There are no such thing. So that what they do is when they get to travel, they ask their neighbors to look after their kids. So that is how they survive. And group initiatives, whenever they get large orders, they get into informal grouping systems. So they have like when they get large orders, they somehow outsource their works within the same village and get the work done. And informal support systems from the diaspora. Many women entrepreneurs mention that they get small grants to cover the operational costs, as well as there is an impact buying culture from the diaspora. So people just buy to create an impact. So that impact buying culture and the informal support systems are a great source of inspiration for women entrepreneurs. And then there is also evolved immunity when it comes to social stereotypes. This is very much possible for the woman-headed families. So like this is very much prevalent among woman-headed families because they are now more immune, and they don't. They just know how to surf, like how to just get rid of the social stereotypes, and they just do their work. And for years, women have been complaining that there are no role models in the communities for them to look up. So that although this is the case in the current scenario, there are certain women entrepreneurs who are somehow managing their businesses and have good reputations. So this has become a motivation for other women to start. So these are some of the best practices. And the last one is inner strength and ability to task. It's an inner aspect. So these are the current best practices. So I have come to the conclusion. So it's evident that there are various drawbacks as well as loopholes in the current entrepreneurial ecosystem. It's high time for the ecosystem actors as well as any well-wishers to create an empathetic ecosystem for women. So here are some pictures made by women entrepreneurs. You can have a look at it. So that's it. So that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Matangi. Thanks a lot. That was very good. Okay, Vasuki, I think, right? Next.
Okay. So I'm Vasuhi Rajasingham. I'm a speech therapist and a counselor, and I work with families, children, and parents. And I find that in my work, many of the families that I work with are single parent families. When I work with kids, the children are mainly supported by their mothers. So my work naturally takes me to look at women and children and how they fare in the post-war context. As Dharani has already traced the history of northern Sri Lanka post-war since 2009, I find that as a counselor, many people, and specifically women, suffer from some form of trauma. So even though I didn't live in the North for 19 years, since I was out of the North from 1990, latter part of 1990 to 2009, I was in the South and abroad. I myself have suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, and lost family and close friends. And I find that people of my age and the younger generation, almost every family, there is tragedy. So this is very normal in the North. And when you look at society today, post-war 2009, since 2009, whether it is our politics or whether it is civil administration, even NGOs, voluntary service organizations, very few actually take into consideration the trauma and the collective trauma that our community has gone through. And post-traumatic stress disorder, you can have, it's a label, but you can have a whole range of issues as individuals, from having coping difficulties in day-to-day life to collective traumatic responses, lack of trust and collaboration in workplaces, in the community, in families, a lot of disintegration, a lot of lot of fragmentation of families. And because of the pain and the suffering and not having dealt with it, there is also, despite women having caregiving roles, and a difficulty and a challenge to actually do it with actual depth, because they haven't actually dealt with their own trauma. So these are the challenges that women face, particularly also in caring for their children. And what I find is that the trauma is now going to the next generation. Even children who were just born around the end of the war, they carry the burden of trauma and collective trauma. So let me talk to you about a few women that I have met in work. And one of them is a former militant. She joined when she was in her mid-teens. She was enamored, inspired by the heroism of the tigers. She was inspired by the stories. It seemed wonderful to be able to sacrifice your life for your community. So she left home, she left her studies and joined, and she herself became a highly skilled militant, and became a trainer, able to train other women, very strong, tough, and fortunately she survived. She's amongst the few who survived. But towards the end of the war, as you all know, many cadres, militants died in the last phase of the war. Many of them also surrendered and were killed, and there are few who survived. And when she survived, at the last stages of the war, people, civilians and militants merged, and that's how she was able to escape from being killed. And then when she came out with the civilians, went into refugee camps, lived there. When she came out, there was this need to have security, not to be caught, not to be arrested. So the most common option is to get married. And, there was somebody, also a former militant, she thought was appropriate and got married. Sadly, she and both her husband, both had intense trauma from fighting, including the fact that her husband had pieces of shell in his brain, stuck in his brain. So, which meant he had also additional medical issues. He used to get extremely aggressive. So their family life became very violent. They were both violent to each other, but the man was more violent to her, even to the extent that she has been admitted to the hospital with broken limb and with repeated complaints to the police. Every time they would take him in, and within a few days he's out. And today they have 2 children. He's an alcoholic and a drug addict. Will not allow her to separate from him, threatens her, but she is unable to seek any kind of safety from the police. And as a former militant and a single, I mean, she's virtually a single parent because the husband just comes whenever he's too drunk, wants to get money from her, and turns aggressive. She's also doesn't have any support. So this is what she's facing. And as Dharani has mentioned, and Madangi and Tulasi have spoken extensively about jobs and entrepreneurship. She has tried it all. She was first given chickens with a pen. And she said within 10 days, all the chickens died. And then she had to work around it. She still has got a pen without chickens. And then she tried tailoring, and that didn't work because she didn't have a place. So she started squatting in some land that was not her own, no electricity. So she couldn't, even though she got a sewing machine, she can't operate it without electricity. Then she tried working in a grocer's, but the long hours from early in the morning till 8 in the night meant that she couldn't care for her 2 young children. She was single-handedly managing them, taking them to school, back, and then the children were left at home. So she had to give up that. So her latest strategy was she was begging various people to try and give her some money, and now she's got a few cows and she gets some milk. But as Madangi was showing, this is very informal. It's about survival. Her life is survival. And when I was speaking to her, so looking back at your life, what are the things that are good about it? What do you think about it? She said, I don't have time to think. I just get up and go. She doesn't have any social support, and she barely meets her and her children's nutritional needs. But she's very strong. She's very proud about herself. And she tells me, I don't want people to give me money and then take photographs and say, oh, she's receiving these funds. I don't want that. So she wants to earn. It's a very tough life. She was recently also butted by the cow, and then she was injured and was in bed, and her sister, who is far away, had to come and take care of her and the children. So it's a tough life. It's about survival, but also, as Dharani was saying, we also see the resilience. And I am not sure whether we consider this survival, thriving. It is a question for me where many of the women are concerned. So that's one story. And there's another story of a woman who was a housewife with 4 children. And during the final stages of the war, or just before that, she lost 2 of her sons. One died, the other one disappeared and never heard. And she saw her husband killed right in front of her. A piece of shell kind of hit him on his head, and he died instantly. And just overnight, she was a widow, caring for her 2 other children, and lost husband and 2 sons. So 15 years, more than 15 years ago to now, she's somebody who suffers from severe PTSD, is on medication but low compliance because there isn't much social support. At 65 years of age, she still works in houses to cook and clean to make a living. She's on her own. She her two daughters are married. And she's somebody who suffers from the trauma of losing her husband and sons. But also, she talks about the trauma and the fear that she experienced, trauma she experienced from her husband before the war. In their marriage, she had a lot of trauma from the anger issues from her husband. She was afraid. He used to throw the food out if there was less salt in the food and beat her up. He was suspicious. He didn't like talking to. So she still has memories of that. And she tells me that when she goes out in the evening and if she comes home late after 6, I mean, she's living by herself. And she said she panics. She thinks that her husband is somewhere looking at her. And this is like he's dead 16 years ago. So this is another situation. Then I'm also talk about a woman who lost her husband in the last stages of the war. They were all in the bunker. They came out and he was outside. And what she could see was only flesh. She never found the body. And then she has 2 kids. And this is a woman who came out, was struggling as a widow, but she somehow found the resilience to, reinvent herself, trained to become a Christian priest. And today she's a very strong woman, trying to empower women. But she has lots of trauma, having seen thousands of bodies in the last phases of the war. And she tells me that whenever she goes to a funeral, she cries and cries. And she says, it's not just for that person. That person may not be somebody I know very well. But it's all this deep grief that she has not been able to deal with. And today, even though she's a priest, it's not a lot of money. And as a widow, she had a lot of difficulties getting the support of the community to become a priest. There were a lot of people who did not want her to be ordained, who objected. Even today, there are congregations, parishioners, even priests who object to somebody who's a widow being able to celebrate marriage ceremonies. They think that it's inappropriate to for a widow, and this is the cultural stigma of widow performing something that's supposed to be auspicious. So she has to take that, and she says, as a widow, even though she's a priest and she has to, she has both male and female parishioners. Whenever, if she ever talks to a man for a little while, then there are immediately, stories or people look at her differently. So this is something that she has to contend with day to day. But as a single parent with financial difficulties, she has to be very careful about how she behaves, what she wears, whom she talks to. So these are all personal as well as kind of work-related challenges that women face. But she's a very strong person. People who meet her feel inspired by her courage and her demeanor. And then there's one other woman I want to talk about, a woman who also was an ex-militant, who lost her limb in the war, one of her legs. And then soon after the war, she got married, she had a child, and the husband left her. And then she had another relationship, and she had another child. And this man works, but he's also he's an alcoholic, so there are difficulties in the marriage. But also, she was so depressed because they don't have enough money to live, that once her artificial limb disintegrated for 5 years, she didn't even go have the energy, mental energy, go and get a new one. But now she has a new artificial limb, and she's somebody. They have 2 kids. One is severely disabled now. She said most days they eat only one meal, and even that is perhaps rice and dal or one thing. And they don't have housing, they don't have proper work. Both husband and she are in the informal sector. She was saying that maybe she can find some funds to put up a shop, maybe. Again, these are people who went with dreams that we are fighting for our people and for their liberation, and here they are. So coming back to my whole thinking about trauma, post-trauma, I want to query, what is our politics? What does our community think? We are still harking back to memories of, separate state or Tamil liberation, but we do not think about people caring for our women who carry, as Tulasi said, the burden of this community, who take the people forward, who care for children, who feed the children. And with apologies to a lot of men who are responsible, but we do see many more men now post-war irresponsible, not contributing to the family, living off their wives. This is very common. So where do we focus? Where do we pay our attention? We talk about, one of these women actually told me, they talk about, come and protest about the disappeared. She said, I don't want to do that. What do I get from it? They just will hold because and then they will have a news item. It's for the politicians to make something. I will lose my day's wage and I won't have anything to eat if I don't work. So people who were at the forefront of this war initiative or for this liberation struggle, they are not cared for. They are on the peripheries. Women who are single and with children, they are not at the center. They cannot be at the center because they are ostracized. They are seen, traditionally our communities don't see widows as, people to be celebrated. They are people who should not be seen, in the front row in weddings and auspicious occasions. So this is in our cultural psyche, and we need to, I think, change that and think about, post-traumatic growth. Why these women do have some amount of post-traumatic growth. As a collective, we haven't picked up on that and dealt with the post-traumatic growth as a community. And unless we do that, I think it is difficult for us to thrive as a community. We will just be on survival and survival mode, resting on women's emotional resilience. But that emotional resilience has another side. There's intense pain, intense suffering, day to day, momentary. Women who find it difficult to sleep at night. And so this is the other side of the story. So for me, I came back to Sri Lanka in 2009. For me, I feel that work that I want to deal with is how to support people, including myself, to not only have post-traumatic growth as an individual, but also as a collective, as a community. It's hard because we have widespread mistrust, all kinds of, trauma-related symptoms in our communities. And it's a hard task. And I think only by getting together, talking about it, objectifying it, and seeing it as an issue that we can actually progress as a community. But also we have to critique our own politics, our cultural values, so that we can go forward with a more human and caring values. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vasi. That's very, very thought-provoking, extremely important topic. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, now we get to Sugantha, who had a birthday yesterday. So, all right.
Okay, it's very good morning to you all, and thank you so much for the team for the wonderful presentation already going on. So in order to support their presentation, I'm here to speak about thriving in a working environment. So this is Shugantha. I'm a teacher as well as an entrepreneur. So I'm here to talk about the thriving in a working environment despite the lack of awareness of women's policies in northern province of Sri Lanka. So before going into that, I would like to give a self introduction about myself. So I'm a 36 years old woman who was brought up in the village of Sri Lanka in northern province. So I was born during the wartime and I survived during the wartime. So when I was growing up, there was nothing called like a woman issues. Like I have never learned anything when I was in Sri Lanka. There is nothing about having a woman or woman issues, or I have no. Not only me, even my parents or anyone who was there in Sri Lanka, I don't think they were aware of it in northern province, because we were thinking only about surviving and like succeeding with the education during that war period of time. So then I had the chance to pursue my higher studies in Bangladesh. So as most of you might know, the Bangladesh is one of the Muslim countries. And when we talk about Bangladesh, that's the newest country. So I had the opportunity to do my BSc in Bangladesh. Then from there onwards, I learned the women are being suppressed, and there is something called women rights. There is something called Women Day is being celebrated. So those ideas I got in my 20s or the early 20s about the women rights. And as per me, when I look at the other women all around me, who like the students or my peers who have come from the rural village of Bangladesh, in any part of Bangladesh or in any part of the world. Like we had like 14 different Asian countries, girls from 14 different Asian countries, and we studied together. So they were mostly aware of women rights and women things compared to the Sri Lankan woman. I would say the Sri Lankan Tamil women. So we were almost 10 of them went from northern province of Sri Lanka. So I learned about what is the rights and what to be asked about, and what we should be knowing in order to get our rights. Because when we were growing up in Sri Lanka, a good girl, you're a good girl, you are like obeying your parents, and you are doing well, good for the family. So that's what we learned when we were in Sri Lanka. So like the perspective have changed for me when I went to Bangladesh. So then again, I will have to come back to Sri Lanka, Jaffna, where I was asked to stay at home and work, like do the works like chores at home. And I do not need to go for any works. That's what I was demanded. So I couldn't find a good job, or like I was even afraid, like whatever stories I have been heard about women going to work outside and how they are being treated and all. So I was also even a little afraid of the situation over there, because going from Sri Lanka and then studying in Bangladesh, again coming back to Sri Lanka, Jaffna, what I saw in Jaffna was totally a different story. Like I was quite afraid of Jaffna, the society. So being at home, I couldn't just stay just doing nothing. So I started a small business out of my own interest. So I when starting a small business, I wanted to post it in social media so that people would at least say it's looking good. I started not like a business, but just like a hobby. So I was afraid of posting on my own Facebook. So what I did was I started a new Facebook account with having a split names of my parents and started posting them, and that then a glooming business has started with posting those details. And then I couldn't stay back in Jaffna. So again, I traveled back to Colombo. I found a job as a coordinator, quality control coordinator. So I wanted to pursue higher studies over there. So I stayed over there for 4.5 years. But then I will have to, like, due to the house calling, I do have to come back to Jaffna, Northern Province, and now I'm a science teacher, secondary grade science teacher, and I'm teaching in Mullathib. So when I talk about starting up a small scale freelancing quilling work, this is how I do. Like these are the handmade greeting cards and jewelry, jewel accessories, and customized gift and home decors. So I never posted my mobile numbers online still, because even when I had a new Facebook account and I was trying to sell products, there were good people who contacted me, and I was having contacts with them. But the problem is I had so many different unnecessary messages coming to me. So that is a harassment in online platform. I had unnecessary calls, video calls, but as I had a separate account, I just ignored them. But I wonder, if I had it in my own, what would have happened to me? That's a question. And also, when we are doing a small business, a small scale business, it's a problem of pricing the products. So if we tell a price, I usually have a reasonable prices for my products, but then I calculated the minutes I spent on the product and the cost. That's how I calculate, and I always give a reasonable low price. But still, people think the works are not, like, though they are beautiful, the works are not much okay for them. Like, why should we pay so much for this? That kind of questions sometimes discourage what we are doing. And also, I'm afraid of coming out of the boundary, the norm, and the culture, because I have been always cautious. I shouldn't be letting myself out so that it will shame my father or shame the family's name. So that is also one of the issues. Being in Jaffna, in a rural area, in a village, in the northern part of Sri Lanka, and doing a business, and these kind of challenges we have been faced. But then during the COVID pandemic time, I have met with Tulasiyaka at first, and then I had the Green Dream Women's, where I had the really backbone system supporting me. So this is just a shot of Sunday Observer, one of the leading newspapers in Sri Lanka. So we have been advertised with our own name, own profession, and all the details. And I was confident enough to give the I was really worried what should we do, and then I talked to my parents and all first of all, and then I had to give an interview, and I was um, happy with the encouragement and all the things. So when women are together, when women are aware of their own rights, I think we can achieve some. So here I have joined the Green Dream Women's, and I have been worked as a trainer, and I have helped kind of contributed my knowledge to them, and I learned a lot because being a woman, doing an entrepreneurship, like being an trying to be an entrepreneur, is really hard. So I learned how to be successful, how to be not to be afraid of sharing our products. So that's the story of my entrepreneurship. And now again, coming back to my present career, I'm traveling to the war affected area of northern province. So all my views have been changed all over. Like I had exposure to different types of areas, different types of people who have different types of knowledge or awareness. So I'm traveling almost 100 kilometers to teach. So the area, which is a really central area for the war, the people are being really affected by the war. And the students who come over there, still they do have families, they don't have families, they are with another families, and there are a lot of issues with the students. But whenever teaching to my kids, my always concern is about trying to bring up the women education. I always encourage the women or the girls who are coming, the students. I wanted them to be educated, and I have never seen any of my there are 3 schools near to my schools. So there are 3 different schools, almost like 11 kilometers away, and this is a secondary, primary and the secondary school, and none of them, especially the girls, at least 1 or 2 men are being educated in science stream. When I talk about science stream, it contributes to the math and the science and agriculture and technology. So only few men, like if I tell, like 3 men are being men studied in advanced level mathematics, and they were doing some kind of work, but none of the men, none of the women are being able to study the science. What's the cause of that? So the first thing is, this is the hardest subject. It needs brain. Whenever I talk to the people around, even the parents meeting or the students, when I try to be interacting with them, science is a brainy work, maths is a brainy work. We women, we don't want that. That's kind of a norm is all over there, even now. So also the extracurricular activities, the girls in the school are not willing to come forward in order to have the extracurricular activities. If they are coming out, the first thing they get is a love proposal. The second thing they get is their mother or their parents don't know how to raise them. Look at this girl. She is going out and she is dancing on the stage. Those kind of stories were there in the early of my teaching career, but now I encourage all the students for extracurricular activities. Just I'm doing only on my own school, because going out, it needs really a big policies and pictures. And I'm kind of a dance teacher to my school. So there's no dance teachers over there. So I train students in order to do performance, at least during any type of functions in the schools. And obviously, these are the things I talked about, the women who are in the war affected area and what is happening to them. But of course, as a teacher, as a female teacher, we are also facing a lot of issues, like Obviously, as my colleagues already have mentioned, the women who are earning doesn't mean they are only earning. They are the one, when look at the whole picture, it seems like we don't need the men, because the women are the one who is going out and working and coming back home. All the house chores would be just laying over there for us to take it. So this is what the thing is happening. Also, when we talk about the maternity leaves and also the traveling, like I look at India, and sometimes I wonder, because they are having at least separate bus for female. At least they could travel little, um, pa- patiently, or like they can travel in peace, because traveling with men and harassments in buses, and not getting seats for women. So all these issues are there when we are traveling to a far area to work. Okay, you wanted that equality, so you stand and travel. I have been told by one of the teacher, like the master, for when going, like, you want to work but you also want the seat, how come? Like, I raised the question against him. You have a wife at your home, go and ask her what are the days a woman needed a seat and need a care. Go and ask her. So the men are really unaware of what a woman is really needed, or like even the other women who are not being able to ask the questions. Also the infrastructures in the school, we will have to talk that a lot. Even not the infrastructure in the school society itself never worry about a woman sanitary system. There is no good washroom systems are there, or water facilities are not there. So that has to be also maintained. Like, so there are policies but they are not acting. So these are the challenges which I have mentioned. It's really hard to bring the women leaders and the educators, and usually the female students are dropping out of school in O level. Usually the O level is their target, and then they are being sent to the governments or different other job facilities. As well as none of the female students are allowed to do science stream, because it's really hard, or it's waste of money to teach them, because in order to study science you will have to go to tuition, so you will have to go to little far away schools, so that there are a lot of things. They will get married to some other guy who is not in our community. There were different type of stories our parents would tell. So also, the school dropout students, I have tried to train them with some of my knowledge of quilling, or I have gave them some ideas about doing a business, but they are not willing to come out. Even in the past O-level students, I asked them to do whatever they wanted. Like, one of the students were really talented with her hands. She was not good at studies itself, but she is good at the hairstyling or makeup, and like whatever she touches. Even my hair is really frizzy, and I have never seen a good hairstyle even when I pay to the beauty parlor. But whenever like, it's really rare, but whenever she tries on my hair, it's a huge thing. Sorry. It's like she does a really good work on the hair. So I trained them. I asked her to go and get the training and do the business. Being a, like, open up a shop in in those areas, there are no beauty parlors, so you open up it, and it is a good career for you. She went as a trainee, but then her parents pushed her to go to a shop, be a sales girl, because she will every month she will have a kind of a salary. So her talent is being worn out, which I learned only by yesterday itself only. And then also the transportation and safety for women teachers are not available. I wouldn't say it's lacking. It's not available for women. Like we are being asked to travel to the places where there is no public transportation facilities. And how do we go? The men would take any kind of vehicles and go. So how we think about our safety and travel? And the infrastructure, as I have told, there is no quarter facilities or no washroom facilities or even no water, but the women are asked to go and work over there. And of course, there are few women leaders and there are few educators who are trying to shine up, and I have admired them. And personally, I always support women. So whoever is in in the higher position of me, I try to support them. But it's really heartbreaking to see some news are coming out of blaming, or they are assassinating their character. Like if I know someone personally, I know their character, but the men who are working with them, if they are really getting successful, their character is being assassinated. And we can see all over the news what is happening in northern province. And this is kind of really heartbreaking to see. And it's really threatening for the woman who wants to become successful, to become a leader. If they want to put them down, the only weapon anyone would take is to blame the woman or do the character assassination. And that's it from my side. And if you have any questions, please do go ahead, and thank you.
Thank you, Sugandha. Thank you very much. I don't think we have any questions, I think. Tulasi?
Shall we open the floor for, we have about 5 visitors.
Yeah, we have 5, yeah. Anyone have any questions for any of us? Any of the attendees? Thank you for attending. I think I'd see Cheryl, Dorcas, and Ishikawa, Lois, Saskia. Thank you for attending. Do you have any questions for us? We are at the end of our presentation.
Maybe a comment or sharing.
Yeah.
Would that work?
I know. I
If
think
you don't have questions, maybe share something.
Yeah, maybe share something that you might want us to know, or something like that. Anushya is also there. Anushya, I've just seen you. Yeah. Anushya, yeah. Everybody's silent. Oops. Oh. Hello, yes. Go ahead, Dorcas.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
From the beginning, I have been listening from my home, and then I drove to the campus and still in the campus now. Everybody's experiences really reflected the Tamil society in Jaffna, and our society is not unable to understand the drawbacks or understand the difficulties, or the women's actually how women are treated and how they have been really struggling. This type of understanding you have to come. We have to make them to understand the women problem to them. As Mr. Vasuki has said, So they have been struggling a lot mentally and physically. Recently, also, there was a rape case in the hospital. Doctor was raped in Anuradhapura teaching hospital quarters. So this type of incidents still going on, though the Prime Minister and President have been talking about uh, talking about the women's rights and their safety and security should be protected. But we are practically we are unable to see the progress of all the problems. So what is the reason for that? To make the society to understand what Sugandha, after she getting all her education from Bangladesh, and now she is become a teacher, and she has been talking to the girls about the progress and the awareness about their difficulties and all. But still, it is good. Her service to the society is very good to make the girl students to understand the problem. But still, on the whole, we are unable to solve the men attitude and men chauvinism, male chauvinism, all those still persisting in the society. So
Yeah.
we all should join together and try to find try to make the change in the society, how to understand, how to make them to understand, because boy children are really should be taught from the home itself. When the our earlier society, they used to pet the boys, so they feed them very most important food for them, the large or biggest share to the boys, and like that they were fed in the home. They were treated like a king in the home. So those type of treatment should be changed from their mothers. So this type of ideas can be imparted to the society through different programs for mothers. So all of you are really involved in the change of the society, but still we need to go deep in the society for the change, to see the changes.
Thank you,
I think.
Anushya. Let's hear
Thank
from
you.
Dokas also. I think you wanted to say something, right? You had your.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very good, and uh, I appreciate the presenters for the good work they've done. And I want to mention issues of poverty in women and uh, health. How about health issues? Okay, in my country, I come from Kenya, and we have women with those issues of poverty. But again, sickness and disease like HIV and AIDS have led them to be very, very poor. I am a student. My studies is studying HIV.
Tara, can you
AIDS.
mute Anshia?
Can you hear me? Okay, so I'm saying I'm a student, and my disease is HIV and AIDS, and focusing on older adults. So there's those extreme conditions making like older women to become really, really poor, and they really suffer a lot. Like okay, in other years, maybe some time back, they used not to be you hear older adults being raped, but nowadays it is happening, and they are very poor. They live desperate situations. So I just wanted to highlight that, and I'm wondering how that situation is when it's a woman has that condition. Then maybe sickness like HIV and AIDS infection or some other chronic condition. How do they handle that? Thank you.
You are muted, Tara.
Okay, who wants to take Vasuki? Maybe you can take it, or Tulasi?
The
She asked
question
a
is how
question, right?
AIDS, how AIDS is treated if women get it, right? I haven't worked directly on AIDS patients. I have a fair idea of stigmatizing on some of these things, but I can only give a basic overview. Vasihi, would you know any better? How do AIDS? Okay, so some of these things are highly stigmatized. So especially if it is of a sexual nature or even a hint of a sexual nature, then the woman wouldn't dare go and get treatment. Quite often, it's not even her fault. So what we have here is an arranged marriage economy still functioning. And many people believe that if the guy goes abroad, he's going to earn a lot in dollars there. And therefore, those bridegrooms are highly valued. So what happens often is that, and they had to pay a huge dowry. So then this has given rise to a dowry economy where somebody from abroad will just come, get a huge dowry from the woman, cohabit with her for 2 days after marriage, go back to either France or Italy or wherever he says he is from, and then disappear. And then she finds out much, much, much later, all the stigma related to being abandoned by her husband, all that aside, much, much later, she also finds out she's affected by AIDS. And this is so stigmatized that this is why we don't know much about it. Even as a journalist, I don't know much because it's hushed up in the community. We do have AIDS cases, but it's badly hushed up in the community, heavily stigmatized if either men or women, if it comes out. There'll probably be treatment options in the hospital, I imagine, but how the doctors treat them, what are the treatment options? I am not clued in on that.
Thank you, Tulasi. Yeah, I hope that answered your question, Dorcas. Our society is so, what do you say, like, so repressed in this area. We are just tell you the fact, we are a very sexually repressed society, but there's so much happening underneath that we have even incest and other things coming up right now. Isn't that right, Vasuki, that we have
People don't want to talk about it. So that is the extremely conservative society. So I know that, I'm aware, but not so much in detail, that sex workers who have STDs are scared, even to go and get treatment, because there is so much stigma about it, having a sexually transmitted disease. So that we have a long way to go.
Yeah. In that way, I feel Kenya might be a little bit ahead of us in that area, Dorcas, I think. We have to learn from you all how to empower the people who are actually affected by it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, Kenya, and then we have national programs that support them. But again, stigma is always there. It's especially for women, it's more, although she's not the one who brought the infection in the house, but she suffers more. Yeah. So yeah, and then when they grow older, it becomes even worse, because with the stereotype, discrimination of age and sickness, and it's just intersectional of many things, so it becomes so bad. So something which we really need to bring it up. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a very interesting and something that maybe Tulasi can explore when you do get on your journalism beat. Yeah. Thank you for being there. I think that's it. I think there was one more. Anushya, that was also a good observation. Thank you so much for your observation, and I know you have your own personal stories as well. So thank you very much for that. I think there was one person, Ishikawa. I think he said it. He enjoyed the presentation. I don't know, enjoyed the presentation, and they did leave. I don't think there's any more questions, right?
Can I say?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Suma Jaratnam. I'm Tara's sister. Just wanted to thank everyone. It was so thought-provoking, and I was really proud to hear so many other stories and the impact the women are making at different levels, right? I don't think this is a group or this meeting this time is a solution finding meeting, but it was just such an awareness that was created. I mean, we hear these things off and on, but we don't get to hear it firsthand from those who are on the ground and see it every day. So the work that you're doing is incredible, and we are very honored to be able to hear about it. So I have to thank you all for every drop of water, it makes the mighty ocean. So every step we take towards progress, I think, is what we would can take with us, right? It's not something we can find solutions for immediately. So it was really nice to see, and maybe there could be more discussions like these where we can look towards minor improvements in different ways, right? So that's a positive. But thank you so much. It's really very, very thought-provoking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment.
Yeah, thank you, Suma. I also want to respond a little bit about, if we have the time, just a minute or two.
Sure, we do. We have the time.
Okay, to Anusha, because I think, I felt I resonated with what you said, Anusha. I think, reflecting on what you said, what I was feeling is that we women who have awareness and who are in kind of leadership roles, we too don't take the power to move forwards and take over the space, because that's how we have been brought up, not to take space. Even though women are majority, far overwhelmingly the majority in our province, the north, we still keep, we contain ourselves. So even though we have ideas, we see how things should be done, and all of us have shared. In our own domains, we try to do things, and that's wonderful. But going beyond that, it's all of us, I think, are also a bit scared. We are not used to taking up space, taking over space. And men, by default, they do anything or not, just occupy that space. So it's about moving into spaces that we are unfamiliar with. And it's not just like marginalizing men or whatever, but it's not that. But to take over some space to talk about the things from our perspective, from the perspective of women who are marginalized, who have suffered, who actually carry the burden of carrying this society forward. So bringing that to the center, bringing that to the fore, and to make their stories, make them important. So I think that's the work of the future. And as Suma was saying, that subsequent discussions in future, I think we have to look, because there are enough of us. I think only a few of us are here, but there are enough out there also, other women who think like us and who have a lot of ideas, who work women activities, but to get together to move forward and to occupy and take over spaces. That kind of work.
Can I add to that, Vasahi?
Yes,
Because
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was also going to respond to Anusha about raising awareness, because I have been doing that as a journalist for the last 15 years. I was not a committed feminist because I didn't really understand all the basics of that. I was fairly young when I moved into this province. Over time, I became a feminist. I became aware when I moved over here to focus on post-war issues, I just thought of people as a whole, not, focusing only on women. But as I saw more and more stories, it's like the women's stories are not at all getting covered anywhere. So then most of my stories by default covered on whatever nobody else is covering that needed to be covered. So it's centered on women and children. And the number of editors, male editors, who have told me nobody is interested in these stories. I always got positive feedback on it, but the editors wouldn't even publish it even if I gave it free, because nobody is interested in a rural woman becoming an entrepreneur, that sort of attitude. Whenever I ask feedback from people following me on social media about my journalism work, it's always the men who respond. And how do they respond? We don't trust you because you are clearly a women's rights activist with an axe to grind. So you are always promoting women. That's how they put it. Going back to when I was very young and naive and working in the national press in Colombo. So there are some sections that the men take over. It's usually the breaking. If you take a newspaper, a traditional Sri Lankan newspaper, the front pages, you will find only male names there, the so-called breaking news. So they are called the serious journalists. But if you look at what they are doing, what they'll do is just go to a press conference, listen to a minister talk, come back and quickly write it. Sometimes they'll not even write it. They'll just put the press release under their name. And they are on the front pages, right? In the back pages are the longer, more thoughtful stories. And usually it's the women who man that desk, or I should say woman that desk. I have worked in features department, that's called the features department, the long form journalism story. This is where an issue is happening and you don't just put breaking news, this is happening. You just track what is the issue, what are the solutions, what are researchers saying on this. You do a lot of in-depth work on it. And the men are not interested in stories like that. So the hard slugging work on tracking these issues, usually it's the women who track them, women who sit on the features desk, and then we are relegated the back pages where we are, even though we do the harder, more substantial work, we are called the lesser journalists. The breaking news fellows at the front filing 100-word stories per day, they are the brilliant journalists. Also called because that's the system. So then, because the editors can't be bothered with us at the back over there, so over time, they relegated the pages to us, as in they stopped assigning the stories and said, you go and do your own stories or whatever. I mean, they sort of allowed us our own beat. So the last national paper I worked for, we had about 6 or 7 women in the features desk. Each one covered a different section. We decided among ourselves, all women under 30. You do the health desk. I'll do the sports desk. Not exactly sports. Sports was separate. Health, environment, women's issues. We covered a lot of social beats between ourselves, and did a lot of research, had entire sections on it. It got a lot of feedback. Became mini magazines each day on its own with a cover page. And when that happened, and all that happened because there was a huge demand for it, and people were saying they were buying the paper for this section. And then when that happened, and we had these mini magazines each day coming out with their own cover page, then one senior male editor got involved. And he just took over, and whether it was the health section or the environment section or any other section, he would put a half-naked woman on the front page, some model that had nothing to do with anything with the section. And we complained, he wouldn't listen. He said, this is what readers want. Our readers were mainly women, by the way. And they complained, look, we started buying, it was a new paper that suddenly started making inroads into the industry. Like, we were gearing up in circulation because our section was so good. And then women were the buyers there for that section, even men were. And then the women complained directly to us, stop putting this because, we can't leave this paper lying around with our children around because the poses were that bad and the clothes were that bad. And culturally, even in Colombo, they were complaining. We took the complaints to the editor and said, the cover has nothing to do with anything. Stop it. But no. And so basically, he brought the paper down again single-handedly. And at that point, they also started looking into what we were writing, which was essentially serious stories, serious health stories, serious environmental stories. And then, no, it's like, go and interview this actress, ask her beauty tips. The men, once it started thriving again, poked their nose in and, took it over. Now, as a woman in my 40s, I was thinking, as a woman journalist, I'm going to start a journalism website on my own, where women are left behind on various news that we need. How to identify heart attack in a woman, because it's very different from a man. I was diagnosed very late with ADHD, and I think many of us can relate here, because our ADHD signs were completely missed. Only the boys' signs were obvious, because that's what they typecast. Same thing with our aging process. All the news articles, even from the West, I see is how to be young and sexy at 40, how to be young and sexy at 70. I don't care. I want to know how my body is functioning, how my health is changing as I turn 40, as I turn 50, as I turn 60. Nobody is catering to that.